issues are that there's a limited area for the septic system with that brook in the back or the wetlands in the back. And there's ledge up in the front of the lot. And so that's why we've let them push it back. The design was for two 10-unit Elgin trenches with vents, 440 gallons a day versus 440. Required 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank with an outlet filter.
You have to turn that off.
What's also in is an installation that's different that Neil just did. Installation of a high-density polyethylene barrier between the SAS and the foundation, because he's asking for a 10-foot separation instead of 20. And in fact, we've done that before to stop infiltration into the basement. There's no fill needed. There is ballast on the tank. Removal and compaction of an existing tank, and the 3-foot versus 5-foot water table separation. No reserve, and that's allowed with the Elgin system. So the SAS separation of the wetlands is greater than 80 feet. Granby requires 100, the state requires 50. It's a public water supply. This time after putting and Lee brought it up, that this was just too close. The SAS was too close to the foundation. So Neil put a barrier that goes down below the bottom of the foundation.
What is that?
See if I can find that person and shut him off. But I don't see him.
What's next?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of shit. Item number 5 is masks at businesses.
It looks like it was Sarah Russell causing all that disruption. So my suggestion is approve the 5. I didn't change that. The feet instead of inches. The 5 feet to 3-foot water table separation. Sheehan was our rep. Sheehan was our rep. I just don't understand. This is an unruly group, and I'm trying to shut them off as they break in. And so we've got, and even though we've actually with the Elgin, we don't need that for the approved variance. Approve the variance from 20 feet to 10 foot for the SAS to the foundation with the plastic barrier. Allow the exception to the 100-foot Granby regulations of wetland separation to 80 feet, and approve the application subject to plumbing permit if working on a building sewer within 10 feet of the dwelling. Submission of new drawings showing that high-density polyethylene barrier, trench permit, and verification of the execution of the Elgin notification on the deed requirements required for the certificate of completion. How are we with this, Lee, Herb?
Yeah, that covers all the bases. I'm guessing it may be overkill on my part, but does Neil have to file with conservation on this thing? Get back to the 80? Or he may have already done that, I don't know.
Actually, I don't know what happens since if he has to or not. I guess we could say that this needs a conservation review. We could ask that as an issue, and conservation can tell him whether he needs to file, but at least we could require on this one a conservation sign off.
But the fact of the matter is you can't get 100 feet.
No, you can't. And in fact, the state code specifically allows it within 50 feet.
Then I don't really see why we have to do that.
What are you thinking, Lee?
Well, I know in the past, we've gotten a little bit of flack from conservation for not keeping them abreast. But if we, I agree that the lot has a lot of restrictions on it, and this is the best we're gonna get. Do we just CC them what we're doing and just go with it as per Neil's plans and move forward? And
We could do
can
that.
always
That
come
would-
back if
That would be a reason, in my mind, a reasonable thing, just let Colleen send it to Bill Shaheen. Could you
Yeah.
support that, Herb?
What are you trying to do?
Trying to shut this woman off. I just can't believe these people who are so disruptive.
I think it's a excellent suggestion, Dick. I think we should CC him and move on.
Okay. The next
all
one
right,
is,
thank you.
Yep.
the next one is Bob Sheehan. That one is just a septic tank replacement. The fee was paid $75. It's a design for a 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank with gas baffles, risers, crushed stone base, and a trench permit. I'm just suggesting we approve the application subject to this trench permit.
I
Sure.
Okay, so Colleen, that's approved. The one before that, we had to, Colleen, we did approve that. All three of us approved Neil's design with those restrictions and having you send a copy to the Conservation Commission. The third one is Lisa Narkowitz of
Dick,
Heritage Builders.
Dick, one question that maybe Colleen ought to note on that CC to the Conservation Commission that the folks couldn't get more than 80 feet there because they might look at that and say, hey, this doesn't meet specs.
Yeah, if you just put the note on that, Colleen, that would be fine.
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
So this one is it's actually the house on School Street that we discussed at the last meeting that we didn't approve the well permit. This is a 4-bedroom house. It's new, a complete system. The fee is paid. The review is completed. It's a brushy, treed, large level lot, sands, 71 and 74-inch water table. Only issues are the moderately high water table. The design ends up for a 342 feet by 3 foot by 12-inch sidewall trenches, no vents, 559 gallons a day design versus 550 requirements. It's a 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank with no outlet filter. Fills required, no ballast is required. They did have the 5 feet water table separation, and the reserve is in between the trenches. The SAS separation to wells and wetlands is greater than 100 feet. My suggestion is to approve the application subject to submission of revised drawings with the relocated trenched SAS, the D-box notes for base and gas baffles, 550-gallon design, the trench permit notes, the Board of Health strip inspection, and the fill requirements and a trench permit. But Herb and Lee, what are your thoughts?
I can go with that.
Yeah, I would agree. Everything's been cleaned up.
Okay, Colleen, so that was approved subject to those conditions. What is interesting is that the well location that we rejected last week ended up having to be moved. So it was the wrong well location. And as we get further along on our list of things tonight, you're going to find that they've submitted the same application to put the well in the same place again tonight. So
No, good.
if you people that are on, I'm trying to shut you off as as I can identify you, but it sure would help us if you'd give us the courtesy of just listening to what's going on instead of interrupting. So the next one is minutes for February 15th. Herb, you weren't there. Lee, are you okay with them? Herb, you may have read them.
Yeah,
Actually,
I'm good with this.
Okay,
Dick, I did not review those, so I would recuse myself.
okay, that's fine. And I approve them. So Colleen, that's
Not coming
approved.
out of this meeting. If I'm muted.
I can try to catch these people, but I guess I can just shut everybody off.
Sure, yeah.
Let's see if I can. Unfortunately, for you good listeners, you're going to get swept up in these people who are discourteous. So I don't want to shut one of us off either. So Lee, are you still there?
I'm with you.
Okay. The next one that we're
So,
we're-
just one quick question going back to, where the hell am I here? School Street. You said that they sent in another, print with the bad well location.
yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it at the end of the list.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I've got the timesheet for Colleen. 70 hours. Are we okay with that?
Yes,
Yes.
And I am too, Colleen. That's approved. The next one is money turnover. And that's a total of 2,455. That's for Board of Health permits. 12,035. Licenses, Board of Health licenses, 120. Board of Health fee, 1,000. Gas permits, 100. Are we okay with that?
yes,
Yes.
And I am too. So Colleen, that's all three of us approve that. The next one is a bill for Turley Publications for advertising and perk test. That's $54. Are we okay with that?
yes.
Yes.
I am too, Colleen. All three of us approve that. The next one is, Colleen, is this a new permit for, it's what looks like the Jeremy Methy for JMC Services? Is that new?
Can I see your phone for a second?
I wonder if I shut Colleen off. Colleen, how do I get you back on? I can ask to unmute. No, that doesn't look like it goes. I don't see your number either, Colleen.
Um,
I guess, Colleen, you're gonna have to raise your hand. Can you hear me, Colleen, if you raise your hand? Okay, so I'll look at you each time and ask you to raise your hand because there are just so many people here that I can't find you, Colleen. Unless you're the iPhone. Let's try that.
She probably isn't, Dick, because she shows up. Well, I don't want to say, I don't know enough about this.
Okay. Neil, I saw you there. And Neil, I saw you there.
All right, can you hear me now?
I
Yeah.
can.
All right,
Yep.
can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay,
Yep.
I had to call in.
Okay.
I had to call in.
Yeah, we're getting feedback and I don't know how to stop it. Yeah, we're getting feedback and I don't know how to stop it.
All right.
We're getting feedback and I don't know how to stop it. You must have two phones open, Colleen. Okay, maybe it's not.
Okay, I'm right. Now I've shut off the, the picture, the video, but I am here. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, Neil, I can't see you, but I can tell you that you're up at 7:15. We approved your design. It was subject to let's go back. We allowed it to granted the 5-foot to 3-foot variance. We approved the variance for 20 feet to 10 feet, the SAS to the foundation with the plastic barrier. We allowed the exception to the 100-foot wetland separation to 80 feet, the Granby regulation, and approved it also subject to a plumbing permit if you're working within 10 feet of the dwelling, submission of a new drawing with the high-density polyethylene barrier, and trench permit, verification of the execution of the Elgin notification on the deed. And finally, Colleen's going to send a copy to the Conservation Commission saying it is within closer than 100 feet, but that's as good as we could do. And again, I don't see you, Neil. Hopefully you heard it. Next is so Colleen, I think if Lee and Herb agree, since Jeremy Methy, is Colleen, he's a new guy, we've never issued this before.
Yes, he should be on around 7:35, so
Okay,
to talk to
Okay.
you. Okay,
so he'll be in. Okay, so we'll come back.
Yep.
Perk test
okay.
Next one is a perk test extension for let me put Jeremy's away. For 18, let me see, lot 18, Burnett Street. That one was one that Neil Jackson did. There's nothing atypical of about the perk test. There's no reason not to extend it for the second 2 years. As I drive by it, it looks like whoever is putting fill there looks like they're putting 10 feet of fill right on top of the spot that's going to have to be dug out for the little leach field, but I don't see any reason that we shouldn't extend it. Herb, Lee?
Yeah, I would be in agreement with that.
It's fine with me.
Okay, Colleen, we all agree that they extend that
Okay,
out to the total of 4 years from the time of the original perk. Next one is May's Pizzeria, Christopher Peluso. Now this is the old Little Italy. It looks like it's just a permit to operate a food service establishment. Do we approve this with Lynn going in to inspect?
Sure. And
I would agree, yes.
And I do too.
he had
So,
to make some changes from the inspections we did before, so we would hope this person has an easier time to get things in order.
I would hope so. So it looks like.
Herb, are there some,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Herb, are there some changes that need to be done prior to the continuation, do you mean? Or I didn't quite follow you.
When when Lynn and I reviewed Little Italy, it must be almost 2 years ago.
Yep.
And it was the floor, the ceiling, it was
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
the door to the outside, it was cleanliness of all sorts. There were a lot of things, and he cleaned up a lot of that. So I guess the new person is starting from a higher point than the last guy left, or maybe he's starting from the same point that the last guy was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
The door to the outside, it was cleanliness.
Okay.
So
All right.
maybe,
All right. Thank you.
maybe, Colleen, you could ask Lynn to go in there early, because he said he's going to be shut down for a few weeks. It would be really
Yeah.
nice to work with him early on. So if he had to change things, instead of ending up having his opening delayed because of this, versus trying to help him along and make sure, he's in compliance when he's got plenty of time to do it.
I think that's a
Okay.
great idea. I think we should do it preemptively. I think that's excellent.
Okay.
And as
Yeah, I agree.
treating someone as a businessman in town, certainly that's the way I'd like to be
Yes.
treated. So the next one we have is, so we all agreed with that,
Yes.
Colleen, and
Okay.
Lynn gets in and helps them early. The next one is Immaculate Heart of Mary, and that's the Lenten Fish Fry Fridays. There are actually 5 of them. There's from March 11th, March 18th, March 25th, April 1st, April 8th. I think that's the last one.
Yes.
And April 8th. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
I am too, Colleen. We're all okay with that.
Okay.
I'm just looking at our next heritage is. There's Lisa right now. Lisa, as long as you're there, we're gonna just you were approved. You got plenty of time to do it. And
Great idea.
okay. And what you were approved, subject to submission of a revised drawing with all of those changes. I listed them: the relocated, the trenched SAS, the tank debox notes, the gas baffles, the 500 gallons a day, 550 gallons a day, the locust, the trench permit note, still Board of Health strip inspection. And so that was submission of that. Also, the Granby fill regulations, which actually require that we do the strip inspection and the actual trim permit. So your design is approved as submitted.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Yep.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Next one is Donald Hess Dual Construction. This is disposal works installer's permit. And this is a renewal. Are we okay with this one?
Yes.
Yes.
I am too, Colleen, so that's approved.
Okay.
Huh?
The next one is Jeff Lucier at
Oh, the traffic light? Yeah, I got rid of it. These guys thought someone stole the truck.
Oh, I got him. So Lillian Ranch excavation, just Lucier, a disposal works installer's permit for renewal. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
I am too, Colleen, that's approved.
Okay.
Next one is, I'm just looking at our time. We're still okay till 7:35. A renewal, Walton Excavating, disposal works installers permit. For Wayne Walton, are we okay with that one?
Yes.
Okay, I am too. Lee?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Colleen, we all approve. The next
Okay.
one is a well permit for lot 11 Chicopee Street. This one is, I'm just looking at,
It should be Alan Katawa, I'm guessing.
it is an Alan Patowitz. These are all the septics are in the front, the wells are in the back. Looks like there's
Right.
plenty of space. Are we okay with this one?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I am too. Colleen, that's approved.
Okay.
The next one is where I was talking about. If you look at what we just approved for Heritage, it shows that now this is lot 13. It's the one that was requested 2 weeks ago. It's in the same location that we rejected. And the septic system that we just approved shows the well way up at along the driveway coming in. So this drawing once again is wrong. And I don't think we should be approving this application.
Well,
Agreed.
so why doesn't it square with the septic design? What's going on? Who's off base here?
It looks like the owner is not in sync with the septic designer. So this is, as far as I can tell, an original septic system design that was never submitted to us. So what needs to happen is the owner has to get the proper septic design and put the well in the right place. But
Well,
it definitely will make the well in an illegal position.
Well, they've got the septic design.
Well, it's the wrong septic design too.
Now I'm confused, Dick.
The septic design that we just approved is not the septic design.
Got it. All right. Now that's fine.
So they need to give us an application with the new septic system design that we just approved with the new well location.
That seems pretty straightforward.
It does. So my suggestion is we reject this.
I agree.
Okay, I agree.
So
Yep.
all three of us, Colleen, and the reason we did it is because it does not match the approved septic system design and well
Okay.
location.
Gotcha. All right.
Okay. The next one is a well permit for 81 Pleasant Street. Now that's the old Wally Boy house, the house that's gone, that they're going to do a commercial building. The only question that I have is that lot had a septic system on it. I have no
Right.
idea what that septic system is. This well could be going right into the middle of the septic system.
Gary Toth contacted me about this, but that's obviously a pertinent question. Shows a building 20 feet from the property line with the well 10 feet between the building and the property line in the northerly direction. But again, until such time that we determine, or he determines on his own behalf, where the old SAS is, there's no point in locating that well because we have no clue what we're locating in reference to.
So Colleen, it looks like we're gonna reject this one pending
Okay,
they're locating the old leach facility.
okay.
Because it would be terrible to put a well right down through the middle of a septic, a leach field.
Mm.
So Colleen, will you be reaching out to Mr. Toth about this in another day or two?
Sure, I can. Yes,
Okay, just to start the process to keep it moving
Sure.
in the right direction. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Now, the last one was 7 Acre Brook Drive. We already approved that. That was Bob Sheehan's septic tank.
Yep.
Uh, Let's see, we're still a little bit ahead.
Keep going.
Let's do Jacqueline Circle trash. Are
Yeah.
is someone gonna just take a look at that one? That one came from the fire department, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Whatever you want to do. I mean, do you want to go there on that one, Herb, or I'll do whatever you guys want?
Sure, I'll drive by.
Okay.
Now, before we get onto these other issues, I'd like us to talk a little bit, because it's definitely going to end up mask regulations. And maybe we'll give some thought, because I see Jeremy is here.
How you
And
guys doing?
good, how are you?
Good,
But-
thank you.
But think about it, Herb and Lee, I think that tonight, if you look at, we've got listed masked businesses. We've got the issue on our mask mandate, as Stephen Sullivan pointed out to me, that was all one document, that with 3 different parts. We've got letters, numerous letters, that when we look at our correspondence, that specifically on emails, and well, I guess they're emails, specifically talk about school masks. We've got certainly where we fit. Last time, I thought COVID issues was too broad, and maybe we couldn't discuss it on COVID issues. But I think we've now got several letters that have gone out to hundreds of parents saying that masks were going to be discussed. I'm feeling comfortable that there's enough announcement and enough places on this whole agenda that the masks and each coming up, that we should be able to discuss. But give some thought. Let's talk to Jeremy first. Jeremy, we have a protocol that before any new installer is given a license to work in the town, we'd like to talk to them. And we start off always trying to understand what kind of experience you have. Typically, we say, what kind of experience do you have? What kind of equipment do you have? How do you end up running your jobs? Are you hands-on? And then finally, I ask you a question about what happens when you get on a job and what you see is not what was on the drawing. So if the first one is, what kind of experience do you have?
I mean, I'll start from the beginning. I grew up in construction with my father, building houses mostly. In the last 7 years, my wife and I went to an LLC and we started doing mostly earthwork. We do a lot of commercial earthwork. We did recently the water treatment plant in Westfield, all the underground utilities and piping for that. We're working currently at the Northampton wastewater treatment plant, doing all the underground work. More so for septics. We probably have done, my first septic was in Lincoln, Massachusetts, Lexington area. And that was, I believe, about 12 years ago. We started the company originally in 2002. And now we've got licenses and have completed septics in Belchertown, Ludlow, Wilbraham, even Springfield, Chicopee. And I'm sure there's a couple other, Amherst, probably a couple
Okay.
other towns.
If you were just to wing it, how many septic systems do you think you installed?
I've probably done through JMC at this point, I would say about between 19 and the mid 20s.
Okay. What kind of equipment do you have?
So we have 4 triaxles. We have a Cabelco 160, which is about a 33,000 pound excavator. Volvo 145 with a 0 tail swing. We have 2 mini excavators, one that's a big mini, one a smaller mini. We have 2 track skid steers, 4 wheeled skid steers.
Okay, I think you could probably stop there. I think we probably are all very impressed with what's parked in your yard.
Yeah.
Uh,
Plenty parked there, whether it can operate or not. That's the question,
Yeah.
right?
What do you use to shoot grades?
So depending to shoot grades or grade stakes.
When you're typically on a job,
So
how
if
do
it's if it's a septic, then we're typically using a laser for a septic. We do have a site transit as well. So if we have to, if we actually have to come off and do any kind of degrees offsets, or if we don't have corner stakes and we have to do them ourselves with our degrees, then we do have the transits as well. On the bigger jobs, we also have a Trimble GPS system.
Okay. On a job, what is your role on the site? Are you a hands-on guy? Do you have lots of people working for you? Who's in charge of making sure that the Title V rules are followed?
Absolutely. It depends on the project. I try to do a site visit as best I can every single day. I'm very hands-on on the job sites as I'm working on one of the job sites every day. It just depends on what level of the jobs we have going on is. At this point, I haven't learned how to be in the office only. I do need to do that because we do have 11 employees at this time. The majority of our septics are being ran. Most of them are being ran by Billy Pizzo, which I assume a few of you guys in town probably know. He's had his license over the years in Granby. He's out of Belchertown. They had a construction company for a long time. He came to work for us about 7 years ago. So he is on the forefront of most of our septics. He really enjoys doing that compared to the commercial work.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you a question. My last question, and then Lee and Herb can talk to you. But in the event that you're on the site and you start digging and you find out what's in that hole is not at all what's on the drawing. Either you thought there was going to be sand and you found till, or you thought the hole was dry and you found water at 2 feet. Whatever happened, but it's just not what's on the drawing. What do you do?
As long as it's not a burial site, as far as Indians or anything like that, or Native Americans, my first call would be to the engineer. There's too much on the stake to do a septic that's going to fail and come back as a lawsuit or pollute the area. We have friends of ours that live in Ludlow in a neighborhood that when we were younger, all the septics are failing for the reason that the installer cut corners and they all failed prematurely. And that was a massive lawsuit and a massive hang up for the town. So that kind of stuck with me since I was pretty young.
Well, from our standpoint, you need to know that we issued you the license to put that system in. And that the Board of Health, along with the engineer, the Board of Health approved that design. And you need to be getting us involved too. That we want to be part of the solution. And as I tell every single person that is applying, if stuff turns south and you end up in court over something, you definitely want the Board of Health as witnesses for your lawyer as compared with the witnesses for the people who are suing you. And the way you avoid that from happening is to make sure we're involved.
Absolutely.
Herb and Lee, what are your thoughts?
How many of these residential systems has Mr. Pizzo done? Roughly.
I'm going to venture to say well over 300.
Okay,
Most
so
of Belchertown,
know.
yeah, most of Belchertown and a good portion of Granby and the surrounding towns. Him and his father actually were the original excavation companies that did a lot of them back in the day.
Okay. So he should know how the game works, obviously.
Yeah. And he did have his license
Okay.
in Granby not too long ago, I don't
He
believe
did.
either.
Yes, he did. Herb, what are
All
your,
right, thanks.
what do you have?
Not much to add. Jeremy makes all the right answers, and I'd be happy having him working on my site. So I think he sounds excellent.
I agree with that. Lee, how do you feel?
All good. Yep, thank you.
Okay, Colleen, so we're all set. We issue that permit.
Okay.
All three of us. Have a good night,
Excellent.
Jeremy.
Thank you guys. Have a good night as well.
Okay,
Bye.
now we're coming up close to Lauren Devine. I'm just looking to see if she's with us yet. I guess I don't see her. And when she comes, we'll break in. Unless that's Lauren down there now. Okay, that's Lauren. Lauren, we're gonna let you have the floor for a couple minutes.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. Hi,
Yeah.
Lauren.
All right. Hi, Dr. Abelson. So nice to see everyone.
It's nice to see you.
Thank you for having me tonight and giving me a few minutes of your time. I just wanted to introduce myself and also just talk briefly about the Public Health Excellence Grant, which Granby is a part of, and just provide a quick update, a little bit of information, and then just let you know where we're headed with it. Of course, you can reach out to me anytime. So if you have questions or want to follow up with anything I present tonight, we can definitely do that, anytime. So I'm Lauren Davin, and I work with the Hampshire County Health Coalition. So it's all the communities in Hampshire County send a representative to our health coalition meetings, and we talk about emergency preparedness. So we make sure that each one of our 20 towns is prepared for public health emergencies, which is more often than not emergency dispensing, which is dispensing some kind of medication. And right now we're doing emergency dispensing for the COVID vaccine. In the past, it's been a flu vaccine, an H1N1, a meningitis B outbreak vaccine, or emergency sheltering. So if we had prolonged power outages, where would people go and how would we keep people safe? So that's kind of at the heart of what we do. And so that's where I know, the folks on the Granby Board of Health from. And recently, and I also have, I'm not sure if she's joined us yet, but Allison Willett is one of our public health nurses. She might be popping on as well in case you see her. What we have is our Public Health Excellence Grant for Hampshire County. And as I mentioned, Granby is a part of it. And basically what it is shared services. And the grant was designed by the Department of Public Health to encourage towns to work together and share services so that everyone is able to meet the needs of their community. So this particular grant was written to share public health nursing services, as well as regional data. So before now, towns might have had a public health nurse for a couple hours a week to make sure sort of the minimum was being done, but really a lot of public health nurses didn't have the opportunity to do more programmatic and proactive work. And so, we really want to make more public health nursing available to all the communities, but realizing that it'd be hard for every single one of our towns to hire on a nurse right now. So we have a shared public health nurse team as part of this grant. We also have regional data. And so up until now, everyone has a Maven account, as you do as well in Granby, and you report per state law infectious diseases. And that's very helpful, but also, as we know, people in Hampshire County live and travel and shop and visit all different towns. And so we thought it would be helpful to have regional data. So looking, I'm sure your Board of Health looks at data for Granby, but it's also helpful to look at the region and kind of what's going on and see if, if there's any trends that you should be aware of or have an understanding of what's going on kind of next door. So those are the two things that this grant really aims to address, is offer regional public health nursing services and a regional data picture as well. So although I'm here tonight and I see Allison has joined us, she's one of our public health nurses, there's a whole team of people behind me that is working together to deliver these services. So the City of Northampton is actually at the heart of this. They had applied for the grant. They already house the Health Coalition, the substance abuse program. They already house some regional contact tracing. And so it just seemed like a natural fit that they would house this grant as well and be the host agent. As you know, in Hampshire County, we no longer have a COG, a Council of Governments. So there's not sort of a natural organization to sort of take on grants and manage them. But Northampton does have a grant management team, and a lot of these pieces are already in place. They have the database and a lot of staff members that are already sort of working on other similar grants. And so this really seemed to fit in nicely without really burdening the town. So it really was a good fit with the City of Northampton. So we have the Health Director of Northampton, Meredith O'Leary, is really heading up this grant. There's a grants manager, as well as
I think this is to try to.
There's a whole team of public health nurses that you might see in your community and come out and visit with you and deliver services. We have a whole team of contact tracers. I know Colleen has spoken to some of our nurses in the past, and they've been providing some contact tracing support around COVID cases for you, and certainly can do other infectious disease surveillance and follow-up as well as needed. So that structure is in place. So and then we have a data team. So we have a database as well as data managers, that are able to really take that data and help it, help us to be able to digest it. They can make graphs and look at trends and identify and provide your Board of Health with information that that can help you make decisions and inform kind of the work that you're doing. So that's all great, that even though Allison and I are here with you tonight, there's a whole other crew of people that are working behind the scenes to make sure that in Hampshire County, we're prepared and that we have the services that our community needs, and that by living in Western Massachusetts or being in a smaller town, you're not short on any services, that you're still able to receive the same services regardless of where you live. So that's kind of the thought process behind the grant itself. As I mentioned so far, we've, the grant really started about a year ago. It started in June. And unfortunately, just because of COVID, we really had to pivot and just get right into addressing COVID concerns, which was contact tracing, PPE, vaccination clinics, and really kind of respond to the emergent need. Now that cases are really starting to come down, we're able to shift gears, and that's what we're doing now, and why Allison and I are here is really to talk about shifting gears. We're a little behind schedule because of COVID, but what we'd like to do moving forward is do more proactive work in the communities and provide true public health nursing and information and education and data that can inform our work and benefit our communities. So that's kind of what we've been doing up until now. We have been providing the contact tracing support to the town of Granby, as well as other infectious disease surveillance as needed. So Colleen makes a phone call, lets us know if she needs any additional support, and we can provide that. During the surge, we had to really prioritize cases and really focused our contact tracing on people under the age of 18 and over 65, as well as those living in group settings. But now that cases have come down, they're able to do outreach with every single case that comes to them. So keep that in mind if you're overwhelmed and need support, or finding that there's an outbreak or something like that, we can certainly continue to assist, as well as providing COVID vaccination clinics. So if you're interested in doing a booster clinic at your Council on Aging or an upcoming event at one of your schools, we're certainly happy. We're a mobile team, so we can come to you. We certainly don't expect everyone from Granby to travel. That's kind of the benefit of this program, is we'll come to you. So we really are regional. We've also delivered some PPE. I know, Colleen, I saw you a week or two ago, and we were able to deliver some personal protective equipment to make sure that, Granby is prepared and has the equipment and supplies that you need, as well as we had some regional COVID testing sites that are still in operation that Granby has access to. And moving forward, we hope to provide you with quarterly data. So this group, your local Board of Health, can ask us for some data, but we'll be collecting data regionally and providing towns with that information so that you can digest it and talk about it as a group and use it to inform the work that you do. And moving forward, please keep in mind that at this time, we're doing regional public health nursing. However, moving forward, this grant has additional phases that we'll be moving into. That for many years, there's Mass General Law that requires each health department to provide certain services and to keep our communities safe. But admittedly, a lot of our communities don't have the staff or the funds or the support to meet those benchmarks and those standards. And so really the idea of this grant and this funding is to provide you with additional staff and funding, support, training to make sure that we're able to meet those requirements, and that just because you're a small town or you have a smaller budget doesn't mean that you are any less deserving of these important services. So we can work together in Hampshire County to make sure that everyone has this coverage. And so in the future, it could include things like inspectional services, food service, Title V, camp inspections, other things that, that we'll be able to support as well, should you need it. So your local Board of Health is always in the driver's seat, and you can always determine when you need our help and what you need our help with. But when you do identify a need in your community, I want you to know that there's a whole team of people here to help with those expertise and to be able to come to you and provide that. So I'll just kind of take a pause and take a break for a second there. Does anyone have any questions for me as we get started?
Actually, I'm not going to let you go way, way further in saying as you get started, but I'm sure Herb is got some strong, actually, all three of us have strong feelings, but Herb took on a shot at trying to get us hooked up with partners to do shared services. And we had the worst time trying to find partners. And Northampton ended up being what we saw as the perfect partner to do all the things that we envisioned. Herb, why don't you worked so hard on this thing, Herb, why don't you talk a bit?
Well, I certainly not prepared to do that, Dick, but the shared services concept, I think, is one that deserves all of our very best efforts, because as Lauren is saying, there's few, if any, of our local towns that can really get their arms around the mass requirements for public health. Because when you read those, you see how far we have to try and advance public health. And I think that Lauren would agree that public health in the past has been perhaps relegated to the background. But this pandemic has very clearly demonstrated to all healthcare workers that we are desperately in need of better public health services. So this shared services grant is an opportunity for a small community like ours to benefit from every aspect of public health that we alone and individually could not possibly bring to bear in our community. So when we talk about doing the best for people in Granby, when we talk about maximizing health and opportunity for people in Granby, this shared services grant and the opportunities it gives us is really something we want to take advantage of. So I salute Lauren and Meredith and all of the people who are involved, because they are extraordinary practitioners of this previously semi-arcane discipline of public health, which is now coming to the fore. So Lauren, go for it, kid.
Thank you for your support. And, you know, just really quickly, because I know you're on a tight schedule, you know, this first initial phase of the grant was 1 year. So we're about to close in on that first year. And just to let you know, there is an extension of a 3-year edition, another 3-year edition, and then a third 3-year edition. So it's kind of a, you know, a 10-year span. But we'll be following up again soon to see if you're interested in signing on again. You know, as we continue to develop the program, we certainly want to continue to work collaboratively with Granby and your Board of Health to continue to develop, because we're really just getting started. And I will follow up with you tomorrow, just to, if it's okay, I'll send you some, just a couple questions just to get a sense of what needs you've identified in Granby that we might be able to help with. So we have some towns that want to talk, you know, want to use the public health nursing services for kind of office hours or at your council on aging. perhaps talk about diabetes or ticks or blood pressure. We want to get a better sense of what you've identified as needs for your community so that we can make sure to tailor the services for Granby to really be appropriate for your community. And really, you guys are the experts. You know Granby the best. And so if we can help identify, your community and your needs, I can help pair you with the services and our team members that can help bring those to Granby. So that's what we'll be doing in this next phase. So you'll be hearing from me, and I'll just be looking for some more information so that we can start planning those things. And Allison's going to be part of that as well. She brings a whole great depth of experience, her and all of our nursing team. And so you'll be seeing their faces in your community and getting to know you and your colleagues and your municipal employees to make sure that, we can serve Granby in the best way possible.
Well, certainly, I don't want to speak for the board right now because we haven't discussed this, but we would be delighted, excited, and preemptively, I will say to you, we want to be involved in going forth with the next phase of the shared services operations.
Great. Yeah. And really, it's a great partnership. I mean, we're very fortunate in Hampshire County that we, work very collaboratively and are great partners here in Hampshire County. And so it's kind of a natural fit. It was an easy transition because we already have our health coalition. We already work together with local boards of health. And this is just sort of an extension of doing more of that, really, and providing you with more support and more funding and more services than, you previously have had access to.
Thank you, Lauren.
You bet.
Lauren, I'm gonna have to cut you off.
All right, no
And,
problem.
Certainly that we're happy to have you here. And when we also looked at many of the people, we've had a big audience tonight, but most of our audience today probably is not aware that the state has got a strategy to make it so that little towns like ours can in fact provide the required services to our citizens, and that change is coming, and it's good that we're managing it and see how well we can work together. But I'm gonna have to let you go.
All right.
We're gonna move on to the rest of our
You got
schedule.
it.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us. Nice to see you all.
Okay, thank you for spending part of your evening with us.
Yeah.
Okay,
Take care.
good night.
There.
So if we look at the next item, air sensors, Colleen, do we have those air sensors yet?
Yes, they did arrive. Yes. So
They did. And do you know do we have to send back some paperwork to them? Don't we have to look at the serial numbers and?
yes, but I think I think they need to know where the locations are going to be and things. So yes.
So I guess I certainly can talk to Stephen Sullivan. He's got two of them that are one in each school. I could actually talk to the folks at McDuffie. They have one. I guess we've got one that goes down at the town hall at 10B West State, and one that goes somewhere near Finn's Hill. Maybe, I don't even know, Colleen, do you know who is in charge of the Finn's Hill property? That would let us.
Well, I know Tammy works over in the office. She's she runs the office over there.
I could call Chris Martin and ask him, if he's willing to kick in some effort from probably the highway department. The one that I don't have, no one got back to me, was we're supposed to put one in on New Ludlow Road somewhere near what used to be the lane plant. And I have no idea who lives over in that area that would be willing to let us put one of these devices up.
Dick, for all the people who are listening in right now, we probably ought to tell them that we've obtained a grant to monitor very small particles called PM 2.5, which are involved in a number of respiratory ailments. And this is going to give us an opportunity to monitor the level of these particles, PM 2.5, in our community. And if we find it to be excessive, we would hope, just as our public health discussion preceded, we would hope we would be able to address that in a meaningful way.
The recklessness of our leaders, we could wind up at war with Russia, and that would be a legitimate disaster, no matter what the outcome.
I don't know
So
what.
that's what we know for sure. But beyond that, in the realm of
Looks like I caught that person.
Yeah. Well, Ukraine and Russia are important, but we're doing something else tonight.
So, and again, Herb, as you said, this didn't cost any money to do it, and we're gonna manage to get our students involved with it and tracking it, and so we'll get some community involvement too. So I guess a call, maybe Chris Martin knows someone over in that area of the town. So I can make some calls.
Okay. But people ought to know this was a competitive grant, and it's an important way for us to monitor parts of our community that we don't think about. That is very tiny particles associated with asthma and other diseases.
Okay. I'm gonna skip the fee schedule for now. Colleen, what do we have do we have lots for other business before we go into COVID?
No. We had Al call from AJ's Auto Body. For your input. Do you still need anything from him? He did send, I think he sent an email.
Yeah,
Seamus Connolly, 21 Ferry Hill Road, Granby, Massachusetts.
Seamus, that you're not recognized. We've got a discussion going on, but so please let us go on with our meeting. So, do we, as it turns out, after talking, are you still around, Lee? I can't see. I can't even find your number.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. That I wonder, after talking to Jim Tromke, are we in a spot that, other than for the response we gave to the planning board, is that all we do? That was an opinion. Unless we have, the only thing that we do have is a Board of Health regulation that says that you can't park vehicles in a way that allows.
Still freaking going.
What are they talking about?
Yes, everything besides what we needed to talk about.
So, do we just tell him that he has to make sure that those fluids don't go into the ground? Is that, and if he does it, he does. I couldn't understand what he was sending pictures about.
Dick, I'd be happy to go by AJ's tomorrow and take a look at what he's talking about.
Okay. Okay. Are we, if we get now into masks and are basically, if you look at where the Board of Health is right now, we've got 3 mask regulations. We've got one in the general public, we have one in the schools, and we have one in town buildings, other than the schools. My feeling is they're all one and part of the same. If you look at, in fact, if you look at where we were, where Lee and I were 2 weeks ago, we were in a spot that we were about 5 times the minimum level that puts us into highest risks in CDC. We were at, in terms of transmissibility, about where we were at Christmas a year ago, that stopped us all from going to share times with the people that we cared about. We had very, very high positivity. We had just any number of things that said Granby was not at all typical of Hampshire County. It wasn't typical of the state. And in fact, Granby was exactly the kind of community that the governor said, communities, take care of yourself if you've got special requirements. And we had terrible before that, terrible conditions. And however, in 2 weeks, things have and on top of that, if you look at the trend that had a plateau at those very high numbers. And I'm relatively sure that the people listening probably aren't aware that Granby is probably understands the data of what's happening in Granby close to a real-time basis better than any other community in the state. However, given all of that, and I've sent out the charts, it really says that we went, I'm still tracking the colors, even though the state doesn't track the colors because everybody would have gone red and they're not meaningful. We're at the point now that we're still in a very steep downward trend. We've got levels that are now, when we look at the original colors or the modified ones after the state came out with the next level, but we've actually gone from, on the 14-day rolling averages, gone through the reds. We went through, the next one down, we hit yellows, we hit greens, and now we're at the lowest, at least some of the days now, we're at the gray level, which was not even reportable anymore. The CDC number is now we're getting to a spot that it's not very germane for Granby because the number's getting small. But the CDC number is the standardized number that looks at the number of new cases per day based on the previous 7 days. That number hits the highest risk at 100. We went the next level down below that is orange. The next level down below that is yellow. So we hit some orange, we hit some yellow. We're currently, we got a couple days that are back to orange, but it looks like we're going to go back into yellow, which tells us that we're no longer at the highest risk anymore. We've got data that Lee and I were looking for 2 weeks ago, saying we wanted to see what happened in the schools over vacation. As it turns out, the numbers are so low that Nancy hasn't really seen any since the beginning of vacation, that the kids aren't getting those. The school system still has, McDuffie, by the way, has had, I believe, 5 weeks of no positives in their pool testing. And I think they've got 94% participation in pool testing. They're ready to say, don't be making us use masks. Versus 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, when they said, let's see what's happened at vacation, that this data is so improving so fast and it's so good that, and then I sent out to Herb and to Lee, I sent out the data that's coming from the Chicopee sewage treatment plant. And that is a very good leading indicator of the virus in the waste stream. And their data is showing that the waste stream is containing almost none of the virus. Now that data occurs before anybody tests positive. So that's a very strong leading indicator. It appears to me that when I look at the data when it's changing quickly, the DPH data is not so good because it's a 14-day average. So it drags us in the wrong direction when it's changing quickly. But it looks to me that this next week, our positivity will drop from about 5, it's like 5.1 or 5.2. It looks to me like we're going to be down to about 1.8. It was what I was offering is that my feeling would be that we've hold the people in the town. We report every week about where we are and where we're going, that we are data driven. We are not Board of Health member driven. We're data driven. And I think this data is saying it's time to end. My proposal would be that we end all 3 of those mask regulations right away, and that we advise that people follow the recommendations of DESE, of the Massachusetts Department of Health, Public Health, and the CDC. Now you've heard my more than 10 minutes worth of data talk. Herb and Lee, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thought, Dick, comes partially from a trip across the country, a vacation that we traveled all the way across the country, multiple airports and airplanes and large groups of people. And I was astounded by how few people were, number one, wearing masks, Number two, wearing masks properly. Number three, had any inclination whatsoever to protect themselves or others. I think this, so that was astounding to me, given our cloistered small group in Granby. I think the data, as you're emphasizing, the data suggests that wearing masks is not a mandatory issue, especially if one doesn't wear it properly, doesn't put it over one's nose or mouth or have it touched or have the right mask. But that doesn't mean that people shouldn't wear masks. I believe that anyone who wants to wear a mask ought to wear one. I believe that if you have COVID, you ought to wear a mask. I believe that if you have significant exposures to people with COVID, you ought to wear a mask. I believe that if you're immunosuppressed, you ought to wear a mask. And you ought to do that to protect yourself. I believe that if you're unvaccinated and you're going to be with many other unvaccinated people in closed areas with poor ventilation, you ought to wear a mask because you ought to protect yourself. And I think you ought to wear a mask if you're going to go into a business and they require you to wear one. I don't think you should fight with people over that. I think there's too many good things happening. And I think if you wear masks, you ought to wear reasonable, effective masks. And my clear call is the masks to wear are KN95s and N95s, and cloth masks are not effective. People wearing cloth masks are kidding themselves. People who wear masks that aren't tightly fitted are kidding themselves. People who wear them loose with their nose out or both their nose and mouth out are not only kidding themselves, but they're potentially putting other people at risk. And I think, as you said, Dick, we ought to follow what the CDC says. We ought to follow what the Mass Department of Public Health says and what DESE says. And I know there's been controversy and I know there's been changing regulations, but that's part of what science is about. You try and refine the best data and try to do the best you can. So I believe at the present time that we should not mandate mask wearing. And I believe it with all those caveats that I just gave you.
Lee, what is your thought?
I am in 100% agreement with Herb's data, and his points are well taken. I believe that the regional data supports that the mask mandate is coming to an end or will come to an end very quickly. I am concerned that the silent majority isn't having any say in this entire scenario. There's a lot of conversations I've had with different people from different school buildings, different town offices who are very concerned about going forward. But I do agree that the data has come down dramatically. It's a good thing. I just hope that the people who continue to wear the masks are going to wear them properly, as Herb pointed out, and that the various town offices and school buildings will support those who choose to continue wearing their mask at all times.
Yeah, I think that when Herb points out that if you're wearing the mask, if you're wearing a cloth mask to stop droplets from going, if you're sick and stop spreading it to other people, it does do that. What it doesn't do is that person who's wearing that cloth mask that says, I'm protecting myself, is, as Herb said, they're kidding themselves, because it's not doing that. It's you need to get the gold standard, which is the KN95 or the N95. That's how you protect yourself. And as you said, that through each of these recommendations that I'm hearing is that people are not supposed to be abused for wearing a mask. And that if different companies, as Herb says, if different companies say they want you to wear masks, and I would imagine that you're going to see it around medical places still for a while at least. But yeah, I think that you, Lee, you point out that there are lots of people that aren't on this meeting that we're having, but the point of this is that what Herb said, what I said, is this is not a vote. This is not someone that says, oh, I want this, just as much as maybe the people had vaccinations, maybe they didn't. We find out in the last day, it looks like they made big mistakes with the 5-year-old to 11-year-olds. It looks like the vaccine is only 11% effective. And so whether you had one or not, it didn't matter. But what Herb is pointing out is this is not a popularity decision. This is data driven. We have data that is really powerful data. It's really complete. And in fact, we talked about Meredith O'Leary, the last speaker, head of the Northampton Board of Health. When she saw our data, she said, I can't believe that the town of Granby has got this kind of data and understands what's going on in our town. And that data is saying, as Herb says, that it is not a mandate from the Board of Health that's warranted from that data. That if you guys support it, I would move that we eliminate all Board of Health mask mandates immediately or as of midnight tonight, as of 12:01 tomorrow morning, that the Board of Health mask mandates, all three, are gone. I make that motion. Is there a second to that?
I second that.
Okay, all in favor? Say
Aye.
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 And aye. So Colleen, that carries unanimously. So as of 12:01 tomorrow morning, the mask mandate from all three mask mandates from the Board of Health will end.
Okay.
So do we have any other? As I said, for everybody on board here, this was not a public hearing. This was to be discussing the data and how we make decisions. And the Board of Health made a decision on this one based on data. And I have no idea how many people here are for this decision or against this decision. but it is one that is based on the facts that we have, the data that we have. So,
And I think it's a good decision, Dave. The fee schedule, I assume we will take up at another time.
my suggestion is, Colleen, we carry it to the next meeting. We had with Lauren and with this discussion, it's a long
Yes,
kind of meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
With that, then Lee, Colleen, are we done then?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay. Then everybody, thank you for being part of our meeting tonight, and have a good night, everybody.